The candle bent in its own heat, guttering as if it too had grown old and tired of standing watch over secrets. Jon Arryn's hands shook when he tried to turn the page, the tremor traveling up his wrist like a living thing. He had once held a sword steady enough to make a young man's bravery look like fumbling. Now he struggled to hold parchment without tearing it. The book lay open across his knees, heavy as judgment. Line after line of names, marriages, sons and daughters. The same truth repeated in ink across centuries. A stag bred true, and so did its seed. Black hair, blue eyes, thick jaws, stubborn chins. A boy born of Robert Baratheon should have looked as if storms had hammered him into shape. Instead, there was gold. There were green eyes that laughed too sharply, too coldly. There was that thin line of cruelty at the mouth that Jon Arryn could not unsee. He dipped the quill again, but the ink blotched. His vision blurred. His stomach clenched and rolled as if something inside him had decided to claw its way out. "Lord Arryn," Grand Maester Pycelle murmured, voice like soft wool. "You must rest. The strain will kill me," Jon Arryn said, and the words cost him air. He steadied himself with a grim swallow. "Or the poison will. Either way, you will not stop it." Pycelle's eyes flicked away as if the chamber itself had accused him. He busied his hands, rearranging nothing on the tray of tonics, his chain softly clicking like a man counting prayers. Jon Arryn's gaze found the hooded courier at the foot of the bed. A slight figure, cloaked against the castle's chill, face shadowed. One of Jon Royce's men, so he had been told, brought in through servants' passages, paid in silence and escorted by a knight who would ask no questions because he already knew too many answers. Jon Arryn slid the first packet of parchment into a leather sheath. Inside were copied pages from the book, the genealogy marked in his own shaky hand. A list of names, a smith in Flea Bottom with Robert's black-haired bastards, a bookseller who had shown him the passage, a maid who had once confessed what she'd seen when the queen's children were born. Proof enough to topple a kingdom if it reached the right hands. He wrote the last lines carefully, as if careful ink could keep careful men alive. "Ned, if this reaches you, then I have failed to speak where I should have. Trust no one in the Red Keep. The Lannisters are not what they seem, and the boy on the throne is not of Robert's blood. The seed is strong. Remember it. Protect Robert if you can. Protect the realm if you must. Jon." His hand faltered on the final stroke. A cough seized him, deep and wet. When it passed, he tasted metal. He forced himself to sit up farther, the effort turning the room into a spinning wheel. He pressed his signet into the wax, Falcon and Moon, and held it there until the wax cooled and set. A small, hard thing meant to outlive him. "Take it," he rasped. The courier stepped forward. Gloved fingers closed around the letter and the sheath with reverence, as if holding a relic. When the courier bowed, the hood slipped just enough for Jon Arryn to see a jawline, pale skin, a small scar above the brow. Young. Too young for this. They were all too young. "Winterfell," Jon Arryn said. "Not the king. Not the Hand's Tower. Winterfell. If I send it south, it dies with me." A flicker moved at the chamber door. Boots, a shadow, the soft scrape of someone pausing to listen. Jon Arryn's heart thudded, slower than it should have, heavier. The castle was full of ears. The courier backed away, silent as a confession. Pycelle's throat bobbed. "You are accusing." "I am naming what is," Jon Arryn whispered. His eyes burned with fever, but his mind, for once, felt clear. "And if you are as loyal as you pretend, you will do nothing. You will forget you saw this. That is the only mercy you can offer me now." Pycelle did not answer. His hands trembled around his cup. Jon Arryn lay back, the book of lineages slipping sideways across the sheets. The candle flame drew in and out as if breathing with him. Somewhere in the Red Keep, a woman with golden hair laughed at a jest only she understood. Somewhere, a boy with a cruel mouth dreamed of a crown that did not belong to him. Jon Arryn closed his eyes and listened to the fading footsteps of the courier moving away, carrying treason north like a spark wrapped in cloth. He prayed it would not smother before it reached the cold. He prayed, too, that Eddard Stark would know what to do with fire. The raven arrived bleeding, not from any wound that could be seen. Its feathers were whole, its eyes bright, but from the urgency in its wing beats, the frantic pecking at the rookery door, the way it would not settle until Maester Luwin took the message from its leg and held it up to the light as if it might bite him. Winterfell was built to endure silence. Stone swallowed sound. Snow muffled footsteps. Men learned to speak with their eyes when the cold stole breath. Yet when Maester Luwin hurried across the yard with a sealed packet, the castle seemed to lean closer, listening. Eddard Stark was in the solar when the letter reached him. The fire had been stoked high, but still the room carried Winterfell's chill, the cold that lived in the stones no matter how thick the tapestries hung. He sat with accounts spread across a table, ink staining his fingers like evidence. Catelyn Stark looked up from her stitching when the knock came. She saw the way Luwin held the packet, carefully, as if it were fragile or dangerous. "From King's Landing?" she asked before Luwin could speak. Not exactly," Luwin said, and there was a tremor in his voice that made Ned's spine tighten. "It bears Lord Jon Arryn's seal." For a heartbeat, Ned's mind took him back years. The eyrie, the smell of clean mountain air, Jon Arryn's steady hands on his shoulders when he was a boy taken from the north and given a second father. He broke the seal with his thumb. The parchment inside was thick, the ink cramped and uneven, as if written in haste by a hand that did not obey as it once had. Ned read the first line, then the second, and felt something cold slide beneath his ribs. "Trust no one in the Red Keep." He read the name written there, Robert, and the words around it. "The boy on the throne is not of Robert's blood." Catelyn rose so fast her chair scraped the floor.
"Ned!"
He did not answer. He read the letter again, slower, as if time could change it. His jaw tightened until it ached. Maester Luwin laid the leather sheath on the table and untied it. Pages slid out, copied in a neat hand, marked with rough lines and notes. A genealogy. Names he knew: Baratheon, Durrandon, Estermont. A pattern of black-haired sons. Ned stared at the copied passages until the letters blurred into shapes. Then he looked at Catelyn and saw the question in her eyes, fear, and the need for certainty. "This is treason," she whispered. "This is truth," Ned said, and his voice sounded like stone. Luwin cleared his throat, trying to find a maester's calm. "Lord Stark, if Lord Arryn believed this, if he sent it to you, then he is dead," Ned said. He had not heard of any illness yet, but the letter felt like a dying man's confession. Or he expects to be. Catelyn's hands went to her belly as if to guard the children that were not there. Why would he send it here? Because he trusted you, Ned thought. Because he knew the capital would swallow it whole. Because the north was far in. Oof away that the truth might live long enough to breathe. Ned folded the letter carefully and set it aside. The room felt suddenly too small for what had been placed inside it. "Who knows this has come?" he asked. "Only the rookery boy," Luwin said, "and myself." "Send the boy to the kitchens," Ned said. "Give him something sweet. Tell him he's done well. Tell him nothing else." Luwin hesitated, then bowed. "As you command." When the maester left, the fire's crackle seemed too loud. Catelyn stepped closer, her voice low. "What will you do?" Ned's eyes fell to Jon Arryn's words again. "Protect Robert if you can. Protect the realm if you must." There were two paths, both lined with graves. "If this is true," Ned said, "then the king's children are not his. If Robert learns it, he will kill them. He will kill Cersei. He will kill Jaime. And the Lannisters will fight like cornered lions." "And if he does not learn it?" Catelyn asked. "Then the realm is ruled by a lie," Ned said. "And lies rot from the inside. They spread. They make men desperate." Catelyn looked at the pages, at the names and lines of ink that could start a war. "You could send it to him." Ned thought of King's Landing. Its heat, its stench, its whispered bargains. He thought of ravens plucked from the sky and opened by hands that did not belong to them. He thought of Jon Arryn choosing Winterfell because Winterfell was harder to reach. "No," Ned said. "Not yet. Not by raven." He moved to the window and looked down into the yard. Men trained with blunted swords, their breath steaming. Wolves padded along the walls, ghosting through snowdrifts. Winterfell was alive, and it was his to protect. "Robert is coming north," he said, the words forming as if pulled from the air. "He will ask me to be his hand. He will ask it because Jon Arryn is dead or dying, and he trusts no one else." Catelyn's face paled.
"Ned."
"I will not refuse," he said. "If I refuse, the Lannisters will know I am afraid. They will look for why. And if you go south—" "If I go south," Ned said, "then I walk into their den with my hands full of proof." Catelyn reached for him. Her fingers were warm against his sleeve. "Then do not go alone." Ned turned back to the table. He gathered the copied pages into a stack, aligning the corners with care he did not feel. "We will make copies," he said. 3. One stays here. One goes to White Harbor to Wyman Manderley, with a man I trust and not by Raven. One goes to Dragonstone." Catelyn frowned. Stannis Baratheon is Robert's brother," Ned said. "If Robert dies before he can act, then Stannis must have what Jon Arryn died to learn." "And if the Lannisters catch it?" Catelyn asked. Ned's mouth tightened. "Then the realm burns anyway. Better it burns knowing why." He looked at her, and for a moment the Lord of Winterfell fell away, leaving only a man with too much weight on his shoulders. "We will speak to Robb," he said. "We will speak to Luwin. We will say nothing else to anyone. And when the king comes, we will smile as if nothing has changed." Catelyn swallowed. "And the children?" Ned's eyes drifted to the door as if he could see through it to the corridors beyond, to where Bran ran and Arya fought invisible foes, to where Sansa dreamed of songs. "The children stay children as long as they can," he said. "But the world does not care for that." Outside, the wind rose, carrying snow against the glass. In the rookery, the raven croaked, a harsh sound like laughter in a graveyard. Ned folded Jon Arryn's letter and slid it into his doublet, close to his heart, as if keeping it there could keep Jon alive. Then he sat down again, took up a quill, and began to write orders that looked like ordinary words to anyone who saw them, but were, in truth, the first steps of war. The horn sounded from the walls, low and long, and Winterfell answered with the creak of gates and the shifting of men into rows. The courtyard filled with motion, as if the castle itself had been roused from sleep. Ned stood at the front, cloak fastened, face set into the mask he wore for duty. Robb was beside him, tall for his age, trying to look older still. Sansa bounced on her toes with nervous excitement, her cheeks flushed. Arya scowled at the fuss, fingers stained with stable dirt. Catelyn stood just behind Ned, calm on the surface, but he could feel the tension in her like a drawn bow. When the royal party rode in, Winterfell's air changed. The scent of horses and leather, of perfume fighting the cold, of unfamiliar smoke and spiced wine. The sound of southern voices, higher, faster, bounced off northern stone. King Robert Baratheon dismounted before the gates as if he had been born to conquer walls. He was broader than Ned remembered, his beard flecked with frost, his laugh booming. He opened his arms and strode forward, and for a moment Ned saw the young man he had followed to war, the storm-made flesh, the friend who had once been simple.
"Ned!"
Robert roared, crushing him in an embrace that smelled of wine and sweat and joy. "By the gods, you've grown even grimmer in the snow." Ned managed to smile. Your Grace. Robert pulled back, feigning offense. "Have you forgotten my name already? 7 hells, man. I rode half the realm to drink with you, and you greet me like a stranger." The words were easy, but Ned felt the letter burning in his doublet, a silent reminder that nothing was simple anymore. Cersei approached with measured grace, her blonde hair pinned beneath a jeweled circlet. Her smile was a blade wrapped in silk. "Lord Stark," she said, voice smooth. "It has been too long." "Your Grace," Ned said, bowing. Jaime Lannister stood at her shoulder, golden and bright as a statue, his green eyes amused. He looked Ned over as if measuring him, and Ned felt the chill of it. Jaime's smile held no warmth, only mockery. Joffrey stepped forward next, dressed in rich velvet that looked foolish in the North's stark light. He bowed to Catelyn with the exaggerated flourish of a boy playing at being a man. When he looked at Ned, his gaze slid away, dismissive. And there, between the boy's curls and the Queen's, Ned saw the truth like a stain. The same shade of gold, the same eyes. He forced his face to remain still. Robert clapped Robb on the shoulder hard enough to make the boy stagger. "And this is the heir, is it? Stark blood and steel." He turned to Sansa. "And this must be your pretty girl. Gods, Ned, you make fine children." Sansa blushed, curtsying. Arya rolled her eyes and fidgeted. Robert's gaze drifted over the courtyard, taking in banners, men, stone. "Winterfell," he said, as if tasting the word. "It's good to be home in the cold." Ned wanted to believe it. Inside the great hall, the feast began. Virile. I danced across beams darkened by smoke from 100 years of winters. Food arrived in abundance. Roasted venison, stewed roots, bread still warm, filling the air with honest scent. Northern ale flowed thick and strong, and Robert drank as if he meant to drown the past. Ned sat beside him at the high table, watching the king laugh with the children, watching him slap men on the back and call them by old names. He watched Cersei sip wine with restrained disdain, her eyes sharp as needles. He watched Jaime lean close to her at times, their heads nearly touching, and he felt his stomach tighten. At the far end, Joffrey toyed with his knife, glancing around as if searching for something to cut. Robert leaned toward Ned, cheeks ruddy. "I didn't come only to drink," he said, voice dropping just enough that the others could not hear. "Jon is dead." The words hit like a fist. Ned kept his face still. "I am sorry." Robert waved it away with forced bravado. "Don't be sorry, be angry. Jon was the only man in King's Landing who told me no. The only one who didn't want something." His eyes went glassy for a moment. "They say it was a sickness, but he swallowed. "I don't know what to believe anymore." Ned felt a strange, sharp pity. The king knew, in his bones, that something was wrong. He just did not know where to point the blade. Robert's hand closed around Ned's wrist. "I need you," he said, and the words held more desperation than command. "Come south, be my hand. Set my court straight. I'm sick of Lannister whispers and council lies. I'm sick of..." His gaze flicked toward Cersei, then away. "You were always honest, Ned, even when it annoyed me." Ned felt the letter burning in his doublet, a silent reminder that nothing was simple anymore. He thought of refusing, of staying in the north where walls were thick and loyalty was old. But refusal would be seen. Refusal would be questioned. Refusal would be a flag raised in front of lions. "I will come," Ned said quietly. Robert's relief was immediate, almost boyish. He grinned and slammed his cup down. "Good. Gods. It's settled." He bellowed for more wine, as if celebration could keep death away. Across the hall, Cersei's gaze met Ned's for a heartbeat. Her expression did not change, but her eyes narrowed, as if she had just heard a distant sound and did not like what it promised. Ned looked away first. Later, when the feast thinned and the fires burned lower, Robert dragged Ned through corridors toward the crypts. His steps were unsteady. "I need to see her," he muttered. I need to remember." Lyanna Stark's statue waited below, stone-faced serene. Robert knelt, his drunkenness sharpening into something raw. "You were meant to be my queen," he whispered. Not this." Ned stood behind him, hands clasped, and felt the old grief rise like a tide. He thought of the lie that had started a war. He thought of the lie that might start another. Robert stumbled to his feet, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand as if ashamed of them. "Come south, Ned," he said again, softer. "And help me."
Ned nodded.
In the dim light of the crypt, he could almost imagine the world as it had been, simple, fierce, full of friends. But above them, in the living halls, lions' sharpened claws and wolves began to gather. Night in Winterfell was a quiet thing, a dark pressed close against stone. Yet in the solar, the fire burned high, and the table was crowded with parchment. Catelyn wrote by lamplight, her pen scratching out the same lines again and again, copying names and marriages until her fingers cramped. Each stroke felt like stitching a wound closed. Clumsy, necessary, painful. Across from her, Maester Luwin checked each page, his brows drawn tight. He had the look of a man confronted by a truth that did not fit his neat boxes. "If this is forged," he began. "It is not," Ned said. He stood at the window, watching snow drift in the courtyard below. His mind kept returning to Jon Arryn's seal, to the way the wax had cracked beneath his thumb. Jon Arryn would not risk his life on a lie, and he risked it. Robb lingered by the door, sword belted, though there was no need for it in the heart of Winterfell. Gray wind lay at his feet, eyes half closed, ears twitching at every sound. A direwolf listened better than any man. Robb's face was pale in the firelight. "Father," he said quietly, "if the Queen's children are not the King's, then they have no claim," Ned said. Robb swallowed. "And if the King dies?" Ned turned from the window and looked at his son. He saw in Robb the boy who had once chased snowflakes with Bran, and he saw too the man who might soon be forced into a mantle too heavy for youth. "If the King dies," Ned said, "then the realm will tear itself apart over who should wear a crown. That is why we must be ready before anyone else knows we are moving." Catelyn finished a page and set it aside, ink glistening. "The first satchel goes to White Harbor," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were rimmed with red from strain. "Wyman Manderley will understand. His loyalty is old, and his ships are fast."
Ned nodded.
"And the second to Dragonstone." He looked at Luwin. "Who can we trust to carry it?" Luwin hesitated. "A man who will not speak even under torture." "We will not pick a man for his silence," Ned said. "We will pick one for his loyalty. Silence follows loyalty better than fear does." Catelyn's pen paused. "And what of the Eyrie?" Assuredly, Jon Arryn would have wanted his wife to know. But Lisa Arryn was as unpredictable as mountain weather, and fear made fools of people. Ned remembered her eyes, wide and anxious, even when young. "Not yet," he said. "Not until I can speak to her or to someone I trust in the Vale." Robb's hand tightened around the doorframe. "You're going to King's Landing," he said. It was not a question. Ned felt the words settle between them like snow on a grave. "Yes. And I stay?" Robb asked, though he already knew. He was Lord of Winterfell in all but name when Ned left. The North would look to him. "You stay," Ned said. "You listen, you learn, and you keep the North steady." Robb's jaw clenched. "And if they try to hurt you?" Ned thought of Cersei's eyes in the feast hall, of Jaime's carelessness, of Littlefinger's rumored webs. "Then you do not rush south in anger," Ned said. "You do not throw yourself into a trap. You do what I have taught you. You think. You gather. You move only when the ground beneath you is solid." Catelyn rose, carrying the first stack of pages to the satchel. Her fingers brushed the stark seal. The direwolf pressed into wax. "If you die," she said softly, and the words made the room go still. "What happens?" Ned's throat tightened. He looked at her, at the lines of worry the years had carved into her beauty. He had never wanted to leave her alone to storms. "If I die," he said, "then you send the copies to every lord who will listen. You send them to the faith. You send them to every corner of the realm until the truth can't be smothered." Luwin's voice was a whisper. "That would mean war." "It means war no matter what," Ned said. "But war with truth is cleaner than war with whispers." The Northern Rider stepped forward when Catelyn offered the satchel. He was a lean man with weathered hands, a scar along his cheek. He took it like a burden he had agreed to carry long ago. "White Harbor," Ned said. "You ride hard, but you ride smart. Noins, nobo ustin. If you think you're followed, you vanish. Burn your trail, and if you must die, die without the satchel in your hands." The rider bowed. "Aye, my lord." When he left, the wind seemed to press harder against the windows, as if the world sensed something had shifted. Catelyn set down her pen, flexing her fingers. "Robert will take Sansa," she said, voice tight. "For Joffrey." Ned's chest constricted. The marriage had been spoken of in jest at first, a king's cheerful notion. Now it was a chain being offered around his daughter's throat. "If we refuse," Ned said, "they will know we are wary. They will wonder why." He looked toward the corridor, imagining Sansa's bright face, her dreams of songs and nights. "And if we accept," Catelyn said, "we put her in the Red Keep with lions." Ned's mind flashed to Joffrey's smirk, the way he had looked at Winterfell as if it were something to conquer. "We will watch," Ned said. "We will keep her close as we can, and we will not let them take Arya as well." Catelyn's mouth tightened. "Do you think the king can be saved?" Ned thought of Robert in the crypts, drunk and grieving, of Jon Arryn's warning, "Protect Robert if you can." "I do not know," he admitted, "but I will try." Outside, a wolf howled in the distance, the sound lonely and fierce. Grey Wind's head lifted, ears pricking, answering with a low rumble in his chest. Robb looked at his father then, and for the first time Ned saw fear in him. Not childish fear of dark corners, but the adult fear of losing a foundation and being forced to become the foundation himself. Ned stepped forward and placed a hand on Robb's shoulder. "You are not alone," he said. Robb nodded, but his eyes did not leave Ned's face, as if trying to memorize it. When the last copy was sealed and ready, Ned took Jon Arryn's original letter and placed it inside a small iron box. He locked it and handed the key to Catelyn. "Guard it," he said. Catelyn closed her fingers around the key as if it were a dagger. "I will," she promised. And in that warm, quiet room, while winter pressed its face against the glass, the Starks prepared to step into a storm that had been building long before any of them knew its name. South of Winterfell, the world softened. Snow thinned into frost, then into damp earth that took hoofprints like memory. Pines gave way to broader trees with leaves still clinging, and the air smelled less of iron and more of mud and growing things. It was a gentler scent, but Ned found no comfort in it. Gentleness could hide rot. His party was smaller than Robert wanted. Ned had insisted, politely but firmly, on leaving most of his men in the north. "Winterfell must stand," he'd said, and Robert had laughed and called it northern stubbornness. Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was survival. Sansa rode in the wheelhouse with Septim Ordain, peeking out through the curtains at every village like a girl watching a story unfold. Arya rode ahead when she could, near Jory Castle, hair whipping in the wind, eyes scanning the woods as if expecting them to leap at her. Ned rode at the center, his cloak heavy on his shoulders. He found himself listening for ravens that were not there, for hoofbeats that might follow. Every rustle in the hedgerow made him glance sideways. At night, when the campfires were low, he took out Jon Arryn's words and read them again until he could have recited them in his sleep. "The seed is strong. Trust no one in the Red Keep." He watched the men around him, his men, loyal men, and wondered which of them would die in King's Landing because he had brought them into a nest of snakes. One evening, as they made camp near a small river, a rider approached with a banner of red and gold. The Lannister lion. Ned's men tensed, hands drifting to sword hilts. The rider dismounted slowly, as if aware of how one wrong move might start blood. He bowed. "Lord Stark," he said, "a message from Her Grace, Queen Cersei Lannister." Ned's jaw tightened. He took the sealed parchment. The wax bore the crown. He broke it open and read, "Lord Stark, the king grows impatient for your arrival. Do not tarry on the road with northern caution. King's Landing welcomes you. Cersei." Ned folded the note. The words were polite. The meaning was not. "She knows I am coming," he said to himself, though of course she did. Robert would have announced it with all the subtlety of a war drum. But the message was more than reminder. It was a hand on the back, guiding him toward the cliff's edge. He looked up and met the rider's gaze. "Tell the Queen we will arrive when the road allows it," he said. The rider bowed again, eyes darting to Ned's men as if counting them. Then he mounted and rode away, the lion banner flapping like a warning. That night, Ned sat with Joffrey Castle by the fire. The older man's face was lined from years of wind, but his eyes were steady. "Something's wrong," Joffrey said quietly. It was not a question. Ned stared into the flames, watching them consume wood. "Jon Arryn is dead," he said, and Joffrey's brows rose. "And he sent me something before he died." Joffrey did not ask what. He had the sense not to. "Does it mean trouble?" "It means war," Ned said. Joffrey's hand tightened around his cup. "Then why go at all?" Ned looked toward the dark where Sansa's wheelhouse sat, guarded. He thought of Robert's pleading in the crypt. He thought of the realm, fat and complacent under a crown built on rebellion, now threatened by a lie wearing silk. "Because if I do not," Ned said, "then the men who kill by whispers will rule unchallenged, and my children will inherit a world where truth means nothing." Joffrey's mouth tightened. "We'll stand with you," Ned nodded, grateful and afraid all at once. Later, when the camp was asleep, Ned walked alone along the riverbank. Moonlight turned the water into a ribbon of pale steel. He knelt and touched the surface, cold seeping into his fingers. Winterfell felt far away now, a fortress of stone and certainty. King's Landing waited ahead, warm and rotten. In the distance, an owl hooted. Ned's hand drifted to the hilt of ice at his side, comforted by its weight. He rose and looked south. He did not pray. He did not believe prayer could stop knives. Instead, he made himself a promise, spoken only to the river and the night. Whatever happens, the truth will not die in the dark. King's Landing smelled like too many lives stacked together. Heat rose from stone streets even in early day, mixing with the sourness of unwashed bodies and the sweet rot of fruit left in gutters. Flies hummed. Voices overlapped in a constant roar. It was not the honest, clean quiet of the north. It was noise that hid things. When Ned first saw the red keep rising above the city, he felt no awe, only the sense of approaching a place where men pretended stone could keep out consequence. Robert met him in the throne room, slumped on the iron throne like a man wearing armor that no longer fit. The king's face brightened when he saw Ned. "There he is," Robert boomed, though even his booming had grown tired. "The last honest man in Westeros." Cersei stood to one side, hands folded, her smile small. Jaime lounged near a pillar, a gilded shadow. Peter Baelish appeared at Ned's elbow as if summoned by thought, grinning. "Lord Stark," he said lightly, "welcome to the capital. Try not to die. It would make my life inconvenient." Ned did not like him any more than he remembered. "I will do my best," he said, which was not a promise to Baelish but to himself. Ser Barristan Selmy greeted him with formal courtesy, his lined face carrying the quiet weight of honor. Ned felt a flicker of relief at that. Not everyone here was poison. The council meeting that followed was a parade of problems. Empty coffers, debts to Lannisters, raids on the coast, squabbles between lords who cared more about pride than peace. Robert grew bored quickly, leaving the talking to others, his eyes sliding toward the door as if he would rather be anywhere else. Ned listened, but his mind kept returning to one thing. How do you kill a lie wearing a crown without killing the realm with it? When the meeting ended, Robert clapped him on the shoulder. "You'll fix it," he said, as if Ned were a blacksmith and the kingdom a bent blade. "You always do." Ned followed as Robert left, but before the king could disappear into drink and hunts, Ned spoke. "Your Grace," he said quietly. Robert glanced back, impatience flickering. "What now?" Ned's throat tightened. The truth was a sword. Once drawn, it could not be sheathed again without blood. "Later," Ned said, swallowing the moment. "There is something I must speak with you about, privately." Robert's brow furrowed, but he shrugged. "Later. Gods, Ned, you look like you've swallowed a lemon. Have a drink. It helps." He strode away, laughter already rising as he called for wine. Ned watched him go, heart heavy. He had come south to protect Robert. But how did you protect a man who would not protect himself? Peter Baelish sauntered beside him as they left the hall. "You're thinking too loudly," Baelish said. "Your face has always been terrible at lying." Ned's gaze stayed forward. "I have no reason to lie," Baelish chuckled. "Everyone in this city has reason to lie. The question is whether they have reason to kill." Ned stopped turning to face him. "You knew Jon Arryn." Baelish's smile softened into something almost fond. "Of course, the hand of the king, the father of the realm. A good man." His eyes glittered. "Dead men are always good, aren't they? Do you know why he died?" Ned asked. Baelish spread his hands. "Sickness, they say. Tears in the belly." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "But King's Landing is full of sickness. Some of it comes in cups." Ned's mind flashed to Pycelle, to the way Jon Arryn's letter had spoken of poison without naming it. "If I need allies," Ned said, "I will choose them carefully." Baelish laughed. "Then you'll choose none, and that will be your first mistake." He walked away, whistling softly, as if the world were nothing but a game. Ned went instead to the library, the one place in the castle where words mattered more than whispers. Dust clung to shelves like old regrets. He found the book, Lineages and Histories, exactly where Jon Arryn's copies said it would be. He opened it, his fingers careful. The pages smelled of age and ink. He turned to the Baratheon lineage and stared until the names blurred into certainty. "The seed is strong." He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Grand Maester Pycelle stood in the doorway, chain glinting, his eyes watery. "Lord Stark," he said. "A pleasure." Ned's gaze hardened. "You were Jon Arryn's maester." Pycelle nodded, feigning sorrow. "A tragedy. Such a sudden illness." Ned held the book open between them like a shield. "Did he speak to you before he died?" Pycelle's hands fluttered. "Only of herbs and tonics. He was very ill." Ned watched him closely, seeing the nervous flicker beneath the old man's mask. Pycelle was not merely grieving. He was afraid. Ned closed the book. "If you remember anything," he said, voice low. "Anything at all, you will tell me." Pycelle swallowed. "Of course, Lord Stark. Of course." As Pycelle backed away, Ned felt no reassurance. Only the certainty that the old man had already chosen which side of truth he stood on. That night, Ned stood on the Hand's balcony and looked out over the city. Lights flickered in 1,000 windows like fireflies trapped in stone. Somewhere below, men murdered for coin and women sold for bread. Above, in the Red Keep, lions sat close to the king, their claws hidden beneath velvet. Ned touched the place inside his doublet where Jon Arryn's words had once rested. He had not brought the original south. It remained in Winterfell, guarded by Catelyn and stone. Good, he thought. Let the truth have a home that cannot be burned easily. But he was here now, and in this city, even stone could bleed. Cersei could smell northern cold on Eddard Stark even after he'd been in the Red Keep for days. It clung to him like a cloak he could not take off. An honesty too blunt, a stubbornness too obvious, a gaze that did not slide away when it should. He walked the corridors like a man who believed walls should mean something. It made her uneasy. She sat before her mirror, brushing her hair with sharp, impatient strokes. The mirror reflected a queen in silk and gold. But beneath it, she saw the girl who had once listened to a woods witch and heard her own doom spoken like prophecy. Gold shall be their crowns and gold their shrouds. Her fingers tightened around the brush until her knuckles whitened. Jaime stood behind her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "He's watching," Cersei said. Jaime's voice was lazy, but his eyes in the mirror were alert. "Let him." He's not like Jon Arryn, Cersei said. Arryn asked questions. Stark already has answers. Jaime's mouth quirked. You're giving him too much credit. Cersei turned her head slightly. Do you think I don't know what I saw in his eyes? He looks at Joffrey as if measuring him. He looks at me like a man staring at a crack in a dam. Jaime's hand slid to her shoulder, a touch meant to calm, but it only sharpened her anger. If he knows anything, he'll bring it to Robert. And if he brings it to Robert, Cersei said, voice tight, Robert will rage. He will swing his hammer at the world and call it justice. And then our children die. Jaime's eyes hardened.
No.
Cersei rose abruptly, skirts whispering. Then we don't wait for Stark to speak. We don't wait for Robert to sober. We move first. Jaime's brow lifted. You mean the hunt? Cersei's lips curved, but there was no joy in it. Robert loves his hunts. He loves his wine. He loves anything that keeps him from facing the ugliness of what he's made. A knock sounded at the chamber door. Cersei did not turn. Enter. Lancel Lannister stepped inside, young, eager, and too frightened to hide it. He carried a flagon and could not quite meet her eyes. Cersei studied him like a tool. My husband goes hunting tomorrow, she said. Lancel swallowed. Yes, your grace. You will see that his cup is never empty, Cersei said. You will pour him strong wine until his laughter turns to slurred words and his hands forget how to hold a spear. Lancel's face went pale. Your grace, Cersei stepped closer, her voice soft. Do you love your family, Lancel? He nodded quickly. Yes. Then you will do what is needed, Cersei said. Because if Robert lives long enough to listen to Stark, everything we have dies. Lancel's hands trembled around the flagon. And if he dies? Cersei smiled faintly. Men die on hunts every year. Boars have tusks. Accidents happen. Her eyes narrowed. And if you fail me, Lancel, I will make certain you have an accident of your own. Lancel swallowed hard and bowed. I will do it. When he left, the chamber felt colder. Jaime watched her, his expression unreadable. You're afraid, he said, not accusing, stating. Cersei's laugh was brittle. Of course I'm afraid. Fear keeps you alive. She looked at him, and for a moment the queen's mask slipped, showing the raw edge beneath. Do you think I don't remember? Robert hit me the first night he was drunk enough to forget I was a person. He's always been a beast wearing a crown. Jaime's jaw tightened. If he knew, he would kill you. He would try, Cersei corrected. She lifted her chin. But he won't know. Not in time. Jaime stepped closer, his hand cupping her jaw. And Stark. Cersei's eyes burned. Stark can't fight shadows, she said. He can only fight what stands in front of him with a sword and a sense of honor. Her mouth twisted. Honor is a weakness in King's Landing. She pulled away and walked to the window. The city spread below, filthy and alive. Beyond it, the sea glittered. Somewhere, far north, Winterfell sat under snow, holding secrets in stone. Cersei's fingers curled on the windowsill. He thinks the north can save him, she whispered. He thinks his wolves can howl loud enough to scare lions. Jaime came up behind her. Maybe they can. Cersei turned, her eyes sharp. Then we make sure the wolves lose their head before they can bite. She spoke the next words with quiet certainty, each one placed like a stone in a path. Robert dies on the hunt. Joffrey takes the throne. Stark will be trapped here, away from his northern fortress. And if he has proof, Jaime's smile was thin. We take it. Cersei nodded. We burn it. We bury it. We make it vanish. And if Stark won't vanish with it, her gaze drifted toward the door, toward the corridors where Eddard Stark walked with honor like armor. Then Stark will learn how quickly armor rusts in this city. Ned rode hard into the Kingswood with the taste of dread in his mouth. He had woken to a message from Barristan. The king had left before dawn, eager for the hunt. Ned had meant to speak to Robert privately the night before. Meant to. But court had pulled him away with petty arguments, and Robert had drifted into drink with men who laughed too loudly. Now the moment had narrowed to a thin, dangerous line. As they rode, the forest's green swallowed them. Leaves trembled. Birds startled at the thunder of hooves. The air smelled of earth and sap, clean enough that it felt like mockery. They found the hunt's main party near a shallow clearing. Men milled about with spears and hounds, shouting. Robert sat on a fallen log, laughing, his cheeks flushed. He held a cup in one hand and slapped a man's back with the other. Lancel stood near him, pouring, eyes downcast. Ned dismounted and strode forward. "Your Grace," he said, and his voice cut through the noise like a drawn blade. Robert looked up, squinting. "Ned," he roared, "come drink. You look like the strangers come to collect you." Ned's gaze flicked to the cup. Strong wine. The smell of it was sharp even from a step away. "We must speak," Ned said. Robert waved him off. "Later. The boar's out there, and I'll have its head." Ser Barristan Selmy stepped closer, his face lined with concern. "Your Grace, perhaps you have had enough." Robert snarled. "Enough? I've had enough of being nagged. I'm the king. I'll drink if I want. I'll hunt if I want." He slammed the cup down, spilling wine into the dirt. "Ned, stop looking at me like you're my nursemaid. Speak your worry or swallow it." Ned's heart hammered. This was it. If he waited, Robert would stagger into the forest and die with a lie still wearing a crown. Ned leaned close and spoke low, so only Robert could hear. "Jon Arryn sent me proof," he said. "Proof that Joffrey is not your son." For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. Robert's face shifted, confusion flickering, then anger rising like a storm. "What did you say?" Ned held Robert's gaze. He thought of winter, of truth, of his duty. "Your children by Queen Cersei are not of your blood," he said. "They are Jaime Lannisters." Robert's breath came out in a harsh bark. His eyes went wide, then narrowed into something dangerous. "You lie," he said, but it was not conviction. It was the first reflex of a man whose world was cracking. "I do not," Ned said. "Jon Arryn died for this truth. He sent it to Winterfell because he feared the capital. I have seen the lineage. The seed is strong. A Baratheon's sons are black-haired. Joffrey is not." Robert rose slowly, looming, his hands clenched and unclenched, as if searching for a hammer. "Call her," he growled. "Call Cersei. Now." Ned's gaze flicked to Lancel, who stood frozen, wine shaking in his cup. "Your Grace." Robert shoved past him, nearly knocking him down. "Now," he roared, and the forest seemed to recoil. Huntsman S. Teared, confused. Barristan moved swiftly, signaling men to clear space. Ned followed Robert a few steps, but the king's rage was already dragging him into motion like a current. Robert grabbed for his spear. His hand slipped, clumsy from drink. He cursed and yanked it upright. Barristan stepped in. "Your Grace, you are not fit." "I'm fit to kill," Robert snarled. "I'm fit to..." He broke off, shaking with fury. "Where is she?" Ned's mind raced. If Robert marched back to the Red Keep in this state, the Lannisters would know instantly. They would move. They would strike. "Your Grace," Ned said, voice urgent. "Not here. Not in front of them. Not with wine in your belly. Let us return. Let us call the council. Let us do this with steel and law, not madness." Robert's eyes snapped to him. For a moment, Ned saw the old warrior behind the king's bloat, saw calculation flicker. Then pride surged, drowning it. "You think I can't handle my own wife?" Robert spat. "You think I need to tiptoe around lions in my own kingdom?" He lifted his spear and staggered forward. The hounds barked, sensing the shift. Men hurried to follow. Ned's gut clenched. He stepped toward Lancel, grabbing the boy's wrist. "What did you pour him?" he hissed. Lancel's eyes were wide with terror. "Wine," he stammered. "Just wine." Ned smelled the lie as clearly as the forest air. He shoved Lancel away and turned toward Barristan. "We must stop him," Ned said. Barristan's jaw tightened. "He will not be stopped." Then a shout rose from deeper in the woods. "Boar!" The undergrowth exploded. A massive dark shape charged into the clearing, tusks curved and gleaming. The boar's eyes were small and furious, its body a wall of muscle and rage. Robert laughed, an ugly sound, and lunged forward, spear lowered. Ned's breath caught. Time narrowed again. Robert's footing slipped in mud. The spear point glanced off thick hide. The boar slammed into him like a battering ram, tusks ripping through cloth and flesh. Robert screamed. Men surged. Spears jabbed. Hounds yelped. Blood sprayed onto leaves like spilled wine. Ned ran forward, grabbing at Robert's shoulders, trying to pull him back, but the king's hands were slick with red. Robert's eyes were wide, shock breaking through fury. The boar was finally brought down under a storm of steel, but not before it tore again, a savage final twist. Robert fell to his knees, clutching his belly. Blood seeped through his fingers, hot and unstoppable. Ned knelt beside him, his hands pressing against the wound, as if he could hold life inside by force. "Your Grace," he whispered. Robert's breath came in ragged gasps. His face was gray already, rage fading into pain and something like despair. He gripped Ned's sleeve with surprising strength. "Was it true?" he rasped. "Jon, is it true?" Ned swallowed hard. There was no room for softness now. "Yes," he said. "It is true." Robert's eyes squeezed shut. A sound tore from him, half laugh, hell. "Efisobi." "I've been a fool," he wheezed. Ned leaned close. "We must return," he said. "We must." Robert shook his head weakly. "No time," he gasped. His fingers dug into Ned's arm. Listen to me, Ned. Write it down. My will." His voice was a whisper now, broken by blood and breath. Stannis is my heir. Not the boy." Ned's heart hammered. He looked at Baratheon. "Bring parchment," he ordered, and his voice carried authority that did not care for rank. Men scrambled. Someone brought a strip of parchment, ink, quill. Ned wrote as his hand shook, words forming a lifeline. "Robert Baratheon, King of the Undulls." Robert's hand trembled as he pressed his seal, his strength fading even in that small act. When it was done, Robert sagged back, eyes half-lidded. He looked at Ned with sudden clarity. "Don't let them," he rasped. "I won't," Ned said, though he did not know how he could keep that promise. Robert's lips twitched. "You should have stayed north," he whispered. Ned felt something crack inside him. "And let you die alone?" he said. Robert's breath rattled. "We all die alone," he whispered, and then his eyes drifted away, staring at the trees as if seeing something beyond them. Ned held his hand until it went slack. The forest seemed to exhale, leaves trembling, birds suddenly silent. Ned stood slowly, blood on his hands, Robert's will clutched like a blade. He looked toward the city in the distance, unseen beyond the trees. The king was dying. The truth was out, and lions would not wait. The Red Keep became a different place when Robert's blood touched it. Whispers raced ahead of Ned's return, darting through corridors like rats. Servants stared, eyes wide. Guards shifted, hands tightening on spears. The castle felt as if it had grown teeth. Robert lay in his chambers, pale beneath sweat-soaked sheets, his breath a ragged rasp. Grand Maester Pycelle hovered like a vulture, murmuring about poultices and milk of the poppy. Cersei stood at the foot of the bed, her face a mask of concern so perfect it was almost art. Ned stood beside Robert, watching the king fade, and felt a cold fury settle in him. He remembered Lancel's trembling hands. He remembered Cersei's calm. He did not have proof of poison. He had only suspicion, and suspicion was not enough to hang a queen. Not yet, but he had Robert's will. When the small council gathered, the chamber was tight with heat and tension. Varys was there, soft and watchful. Pycelle looked flustered, Littlefinger lounged as if enjoying a play. Renly had not returned from some errand. Convenient, perhaps. Ser Barristan Selmy stood straight as a spear, his face grim. Cersei entered last, Joffrey beside her. The boy wore black velvet and the beginnings of a crown in his expression. He looked at Ned with open dislike, as if Ned were something unpleasant tracked into the room. Cersei's eyes swept the council, then settled on Ned's hands. She saw the parchment, and Ned saw a flicker in her eyes that was not surprise. She had known. Of course she had known. She had made it happen. Ned rose. His voice was steady when he spoke, though his heart hammered. "The king is dying," he said. "Before he loses the last of his strength, he has named his heir." Joffrey's chin lifted. "I am the king's heir," he said sharply. Ned did not look at him. He looked at the council. "The king has signed this with his own hand," he said, holding up the parchment. The wax seal glinted red. "He named Stannis Baratheon as rightful heir to the Iron Throne." The room went still. Cersei's smile did not change. "How interesting," she said softly. Her voice was honeyed, but there was steel beneath. "My husband is fevered. He might sign anything." Ser Barristan Selmy's eyes narrowed. "I saw his grace sign," he said. Cersei's gaze flicked to him, cold. "Did you?" she asked, as if amused. Joffrey stepped forward, reaching. "Give me that," he snapped. Ned pulled the parchment back out of reach. "You are not the king," he said, and the words felt like stepping onto thin ice. Joffrey's face reddened. "I am the king's son." Ned looked at him then, and in his gaze there was no kindness. "You are not," he said quietly. The words hit like a slap. Cersei's eyes flashed. "Lord Stark," she said, voice suddenly sharp. "You tread on dangerous ground." Ned held the king's will tighter. "The truth is not dangerous," he said. "Only lies are." Cersei rose, her skirts whispering. "Truth?" she echoed, and her laughter was soft and cruel. "You come from the north with your snow and your honor, and you think you can simply declare truth and have the world kneel to it." Ned's hand tightened around the parchment. "The king has spoken," he said. "The king is dying," Cersei said, stepping closer. "And a dying man's words are wind." She reached out, not for the parchment but for Ned's authority. "You have no army here," she said, her voice low enough that it felt intimate, almost kind. "You have no friends who will bleed for you. You have only paper and pride." Ned's mind flashed to Winterfell, to Robb's face, to Catelyn's hands sealing satchels. The North was readying. The truth was not only here, but here in this room he needed time. He looked at Ser Barristan Selmy. "Ser Barristan," he said, "as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, you will see this will honored." Barristan's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked toward Joffrey, then to Cersei. He had served kings all his life. He had seen honor bent and broken. Now he looked like a man being asked to choose between two kinds of duty. Barristan began. Cersei spoke over him, voice clear. "Ser Barristan will serve the king," she said. "And my son is the king." Joffrey's mouth twisted into a grin, cruel satisfaction spilling out. "Yes," he said, "I am." Ned felt the city's weight pressing on him. He needed the city watch. He needed men. He needed... Littlefinger's voice drifted in, light as a feather. "Perhaps," he said, "we should all calm ourselves. The king is not yet dead. There is time to speak." Ned did not trust him, but calm was a weapon too. Cersei turned her gaze to Littlefinger, and for a moment Ned saw something pass between them, an understanding. Then she looked back at Ned. "You will give me that parchment," she said. "No," Ned said. The word landed heavily. It was the first outright refusal he had given her, and he saw in her eyes the decision forming, like a knife being drawn. She smiled. "Then you will learn what happens to men who say no to queens." Ned's hand drifted toward the pommel of his sword, though he knew steel would not help him here. Not yet. He forced himself to breathe. "I will leave this chamber," he said. I will summon the city watch, and I will ensure the king's will is upheld." Cersei's expression remained calm, but her voice was soft as silk. "Do try," she said. Ned turned and walked out, the parchment clutched in his fist like a flame. Behind him, he heard Joffrey's laughter, high and sharp, and in that laughter, Ned heard the sound of a realm tipping toward fire. Ned found the captain of the city watch where men like him always could be found, in the spaces between law and coin. Janos Slynt waited in a corridor off the main hall, surrounded by gold cloaks who wore their authority like borrowed armor. His eyes were small, his smile too quick. He bowed, but the bow was shallow. "Lord Stark," he said, "Hand of the King, an honor." Ned did not waste time. "The king is dying," he said. "He has named Stannis Baratheon his heir. The queen means to place Joffrey on the throne. I need the city watch to secure the Red Keep and prevent treason." Slynt's smile twitched. "That's a grave word." "It is a grave matter," Ned said. He produced the parchment, letting Slynt see the seal. "This is the king's will." Slynt's eyes flicked to it, then away. His fingers rubbed together unconsciously, the gesture of a man thinking of coin. Peter Baelish stood nearby, watching with that faint, irritating smile. "The city watch can be very helpful," Baelish said. "With the right encouragement." Ned's gaze hardened. "The right encouragement is loyalty to the realm," he said. Baelish's smile widened, as if delighted by the joke. "Of course," he murmured. Ned looked back at Slynt. "Name your men," he said. "Name your price." Slynt's brows lifted. "Price?" Ned's mouth tightened. He hated this. He hated that honor had to be bargained for in the capital like pork in a market. "Gold," Slynt said, and he said it plainly, as if speaking of rain. "A man's got to look after his men. The queen is generous." Ned felt anger flare. "This is not about generosity," he snapped. "This is about lawful succession." Slynt shrugged. "Law is what men with swords say it is." Ned forced his voice back down. "I can be generous too," he said, though it tasted bitter. "The treasury. The treasury is empty," Baelish said mildly, and Ned's eyes flashed toward him. Baelish raised a hand. "Only repeating what we all know." Ned's mind raced. He had expected this to be difficult, but not so bare. He could not buy loyalty with coin he did not have. He leaned closer to Slynt, lowering his voice. "If you stand with the queen and her son," he said, "and Stannis takes the throne, you will hang." Slynt's smile faltered. For a heartbeat, fear flickered. Then it was gone, replaced by calculation. "If," he said.
Ned straightened.
"There is no if," he said. "Stannis Baratheon is Robert's heir by law. The queen's children are not of the king's blood." Slynt blinked, surprised by the bluntness. Baelish's smile did not change, but his eyes sharpened. In that small shift, Ned sensed danger. "You speak treason," Slynt said, his tone suddenly wary. "I speak truth," Ned said. Baelish's voice was gentle. "Eddard Stark," he said, "you should be careful. Truth has a way of getting men killed." Ned ignored him. He looked at Slynt. "Will you stand with the king's will?" he demanded. Slynt hesitated. His eyes darted past Ned, down the corridor. Ned followed the Lance and saw them. Lannister guards stood at the far end, red cloaks draped like blood, hands resting on sword hilts. They had not been there moments ago, or perhaps they had, and Ned had only noticed now because the trap was tightening. Peter Baelish stepped closer, as if to comfort. "You trust me, don't you?" he murmured. Ned's mouth went dry. "I told you," he said quietly. "I would choose my allies carefully." Baelish sighed as if disappointed. "And yet," he said, "you chose poorly." The corridor seemed to narrow. The gold cloaks shifted, their grips tightening. Slynt's smile returned, smaller, sharper. "My lord," he said, "the city watch serves the king." "Yes," Ned said, heart pounding. "And the king named Stannis." Slynt's eyes flicked toward the Lannister guards again. "The king," he said slowly. Is the boy with the crown? Ned felt a cold, sinking weight in his gut. The parchment in his hand suddenly felt like paper indeed, thin, fragile, easily torn. He took a step back, his hand going to his sword. Barristan, he called, though Barristan was not here. Guards! The Lannister men moved first, stepping forward, blocking the corridor. Gold cloaks followed, not to defend Ned but to close him in. Baelish's voice was a whisper at Ned's ear, almost tender. I did warn you not to trust me, he said. Ned's mind flashed to Winterfell, Robb, Catelyn, the satchels of proof already riding north and east. The truth was not trapped here, not entirely. But he was. He raised his chin, meeting Slint's gaze with contempt. You are a coward, he said. Slint shrugged.
I'm alive.
A gold cloak grabbed Ned's arm. Another reached for the parchment. Ned jerked back, but more hands seized him, dragging him toward the Lannister guards. Steel slid free. A blade's edge kissed his throat, cold, precise.
Ned froze, breath shallow.
He could fight. He could die. But if he died here, in this corridor, the parchment would vanish into lion hands, and the realm would only hear the lie. He forced himself still. They tore the will from his fist. The wax seal cracked under rough fingers, Robert's last command splintering like brittle bone. Ned's eyes burned, but he did not beg. As they dragged him forward, he saw, through an open archway, a small iron cage in a servant's alcove. A raven beat its wings against bars, frantic, trapped. His black feathers scattered like ash. Ned watched it struggle and felt, with a bleak clarity, that he had become the same thing. Honor caged in iron, truth smothered beneath velvet. But he also remembered Winterfell's stone. They could cage him here. They could break paper and seals and oaths. They could not cage the North. And somewhere, far away, a rider with a satchel sealed in stark wax was already moving through snow, carrying fire toward a realm that thought itself safe. Darkness in the Red Keep was not the clean dark of the North, where night belonged to snow and quiet and wolves padding through drifts. Here it was wet and sour, a darkness that breathed mold and old piss and despair. It had weight. It pressed against skin and thought alike, as if the castle wished to grind men down into something small enough to forget. Eddard Stark sat with his back to stone, legs stretched in front of him, the chain at his ankle scraped raw where it bit. His wrists were chafed too, though they had taken the manacles off him hours ago, long enough to shove him down a flight of stairs and into a cell where the air tasted like rot. He could still feel the cold kiss of the blade at his throat, the tug of hands stripping Robert's will from his grasp, the crack of wax breaking like bone. He tried not to imagine Cersei Lannister's fingers smoothing the torn parchment, her smile as she decided what parts of the king's final words would be allowed to live. He tried not to imagine Joffrey Baratheon sitting in the throne room with a crown too heavy for his head and cruelty too light for his heart. Above, somewhere beyond these stones, his daughters breathed. That thought was the only torch in him. Footsteps came at last. Not the heavy stomp of a guard, but the soft, careful tread of a man who wanted to be unheard even when he was expected. The key scraped, iron groaned. The torch outside his bars flared as the draft shifted. Varys appeared, filling the threshold with silk and scent, lavender, and something sweet that did not belong in this place. His face wore its usual smooth concern, but his eyes were sharper than the torchlight. He looked like a man listening to a song no one else could hear. "My lord," Varys murmured. Ned did not rise. "Have you come to gloat?" he asked, voice rough from thirst. Varys's hands fluttered, wounded by the accusation. "Never. Gloating is for smaller men." He stepped closer to the bars, peering in as if trying to see Ned as something other than a prisoner. "I came because I worry." Ned let out a bitter breath. "Worry is cheap." Varys inclined his head, conceding. "Yes, it is, and yet it is all I have to spend freely." He glanced at Ned's ankle, the chain. They were not gentle. Ned's mouth tightened. "They don't need to be." A rat skittered near the bowl of water, whiskers twitching. Ned's eyes followed it for a moment, feeling oddly calm. Rats survived everything. Men with honor did not. Varys watched him, then spoke softly. You did something brave, Eddard Stark. Very brave. Very foolish. Truth isn't foolish, Ned said. Varys's lips pressed together, sympathy and frustration mingling. Truth is dangerous, particularly when spoken to men who have made a life of lies. He leaned closer, voice dropping. The Queen has the City Watch. She has the Kingsguard, some of them at least. She has gold and fear and a son who thinks the world is his to cut. Ned's hands curled into fists. Robert name.
Distany.
He did, Varys agreed. And the Queen will ensure that no one remembers. He sighed. The King's will has already changed shape in her telling. Ned's chest tightened. Barristan saw him sign. Barristan saw many things, Varys said gently. And yet he is only one man. One honorable man in a pit of vipers. Honor does not multiply fast enough down here. Ned stared through the bars. Where are my daughters? Varys's expression softened. Lady Sansa Stark is in the Queen's keeping, safe for the moment, a sweet hostage. Lady Arya Stark. He hesitated, and that hesitation was a knife. Ned's throat went dry. Arya. Varys spread his hands. There was confusion when your household was secured. In confusion, people slip away. Ned's mind flashed to Arya's small, fierce face, to the way she had looked at the world as if daring it to try. She's alive, he said, and forced it into a statement, not a plea. Varys's eyes flicked away for the briefest moment. I hope so, he said. Hope. Ned wanted to laugh, but it would have sounded like madness in this place. He swallowed hard. What does the Queen want? Varys's gaze returned, steady and grave. She wants your silence, he said. She wants you broken enough that your wolf's teeth do not reach her children. His voice lowered further. And she wants something else. She wants your surrender to be seen. Ned understood then, coldly. A confession. Varys nodded. A public confession, he said. That you plotted against the King's rightful heir. That you... His voice softened, almost apologetic. That you lied. Ned's jaw clenched until it ached. I will not. Varys exhaled, a sound like grief. If you refuse, he said, you will die, and your daughters will die after you one way or another. Or worse, the Queen will not waste such valuable pieces if she can use them. But pieces do get damaged in play. Ned closed his eyes for a moment and saw Winterfell's godswood. The white trunk of the weirwood, its red leaves stirring like blood in wind. He saw Robb standing taller than his years. He saw Catelyn's hands sealing satchels. He saw a satchel riding toward Dragonstone. A truth wrapped and carried by a loyal man through mud and snow. The truth is not only here, Ned said, opening his eyes. Varys regarded him, cautious. No, he admitted. No, I suspect it is not. You are not the kind of man who would gamble everything on one throw. Ned's voice went low. Then why do you threaten me with silence? Varys's smile was small and sad. Because men can be killed, he said. And the story told afterward is often stronger than the truth that killed them. He leaned closer as if sharing a secret. If you die unbroken, you become a martyr. The North howls. The Riverlands burn. Stannis Baratheon sails. Renly Baratheon postures. The realm shatters. He paused. If you live and confess, you soften the howl. You buy time. Time saves more lives than honor does. Ned stared at him, fury and reluctant understanding twisting together. Time, he said. For whom? Varys did not answer at once. When he did, his voice was barely above the rat's skitter. For the realm, he said. For the innocent. For the children who don't know the game is being played on their throats. Ned felt the chain at his ankle, cold as a promise. And what is your game, Varys? Varys's eyes were very still. Survival, he said simply. Perhaps, if the gods are kind, something better than survival. He turned to go, then paused at the threshold. "Think on it, Lord Stark," he said. "If you can give the queen what she wants with your mouth, you may yet keep what you love with your heart." The door clanged shut. The torch outside hissed. Ned sat in the dark with Varys's words echoing like dripping water. He did not know yet what he would do. He only knew that somewhere above, a girl with red hair and a girl with brown were waiting for their father to be stronger than stone. The court dressed itself in mourning the way a whore dressed herself in lace. Quickly and without shame, black cloth hung from pillars. Candles burned in tall stands, their flames too clean for the grief they pretended to honor. Men spoke in solemn voices that did not reach their eyes. Women dabbed at corners of eyes that remained dry. In the throne room, the Iron Throne waited, sharp and indifferent. It had no loyalty. It accepted whatever blood was spilled beneath it and remained the same. Cersei Lannister stood beneath it like a queen carved from marble. She wore black edged with gold, a crown on her head, her hair gleaming like sunlight trapped in silk. Her face was calm, composed, almost serene, until you looked at her eyes and saw there the hard glitter of a woman who had survived too much to waste softness on anyone. Beside her stood Joffrey Baratheon, wearing a new crown that did not fit his youth. His lips curled in satisfaction as he looked out over the kneeling lords and ladies. He enjoyed this, not the weight of rule but the power of being watched. Ned's absence from the hall was not spoken of openly, but it lingered like a shadow at the edge of torchlight. The Stark household had been stripped from the Red Keep as if plucked by unseen hands. Northern men were dragged away, questioned, beaten, silenced. Some vanished, some returned to cells. Others did not return at all. Sansa Stark stood near the front, flanked by guards in red cloaks. Her hands shook, though she tried to hide it by clasping them tightly in front of her. Her face was pale beneath the candlelight, eyes bright with tears she refused to let fall. She searched the room again and again, as if willing her father to appear, as if believing he could walk in, calm and stern, and make this nightmare stop with a word. Instead, she saw Peter Baelish smiling faintly, as if amused by how predictable tragedy was. She saw Varys watching with sorrowful eyes that revealed nothing. She saw Sandor Clegane standing near the king with a blank expression, a great dog chained to a cruel boy, and she saw Ser Island Payne holding a great sword, motionless, his face empty where a tongue should have been. The High Septon droned prayers for King Robert Baratheon's soul. Joffrey fidgeted, bored. When the prayers ended, Cersei stepped forward, her voice carrying smoothly across the hall. "My husband is dead," she said. "May the Seven guide him in the light beyond. In his absence, the realm requires strength. It requires." Her gaze slid over the kneeling crowd like a blade. "Order." Joffrey lifted his chin, letting the hall see him. "I am your king," he declared, voice cracking slightly on the last word. He glared, daring anyone to laugh. No one did. Cersei turned her head just enough to give him a look, subtle, controlling. Joffrey steadied, straightening his shoulders. "The hand of the king plotted against my son," Cersei continued, and Sansa's breath caught. "He sought to steal the tea. Prone through treason." A murmur rippled. Some faces looked shocked, others intrigued. Most looked relieved to have an enemy named. It was easier than staring into the void of uncertain succession. Joffrey leaned forward, eyes bright. "He will pay," he said. The word sounded like a child talking about a toy he wanted to break. Sansa's voice broke free before she could stop it. "My father is loyal," she cried, the words tearing out of her like a sob. "He would never." A guard's hand clamped on her arm, not hard enough to bruise but hard enough to warn. Sansa bit her lip, tasting blood. Cersei's eyes slid to her, cool. "Lady Sansa," she said, voice almost gentle. "Your father has made choices. You need not share them." Sansa's heart hammered. Choices, as if treason were a dress you put on because it suited you. Joffrey's gaze fixed on her, gleaming. "You will see," he said softly, and Sansa knew he meant it as a promise, not comfort. Cersei continued, speaking of stability, of loyalty, of the danger of those who would fracture the realm. Her words were measured, practiced. Beneath them, Sansa heard the real message: kneel or bleed. When the court finally dispersed, Joffrey remained on the steps of the Iron Throne, peering down as if the height made him larger. He beckoned Sansa forward with one finger. Sansa's legs felt numb as she moved, guided by guards. She stopped a few paces from him and lowered her gaze, as the Septa had taught her. Courtesy, survival. Joffrey tilted his head. "Look at me," he said. Sansa raised her eyes slowly. Joffrey smiled, a thin twist of lips. "You will write to your brother," he said. "You will tell him to come to King's Landing and swear fealty, or your father will die." Sansa's throat tightened. "My brother is... he is loyal," she whispered. Joffrey's smile widened. "Then he will come," he said. He leaned closer, voice dropping. "And if he does not, I will send him your father's head. And then, perhaps I will send him yours." Sansa went cold. She could not breathe for a heartbeat. Her hands trembled harder now, and she hated herself for it. Cersei watched from the side, expression unreadable. When Joffrey straightened, she spoke quietly. "That is enough." Joffrey's eyes flicked to her, irritated, but he stepped back. He had learned, at least, that his mother's displeasure could be more dangerous than a sword. Sansa backed away, her knees nearly buckling. A guard guided her toward the doors, and as she walked she glimpsed Varys again, his face soft with pity. His eyes met hers for a heartbeat, and in them she saw something that was not pity at all, but intent. She did not understand it. She only understood the fear pounding through her like a second heartbeat. Behind her, the Iron Throne loomed, and on its steps sat a boy with a crown who thought himself a god. And somewhere beneath the stones, her father sat in darkness, deciding how much of himself he could sacrifice to keep her alive. The Queen's solar smelled of roses and sweet oils, the scent so thick it made Sansa's stomach churn. It was a room meant to soothe, meant to convince those inside it that softness was safety. But Sansa had learned, in a handful of days, that softness could hide sharper things than steel. Cersei Lannister sat beside her on a cushioned bench, close enough that Sansa could feel the warmth of her body through layers of cloth. The Queen's hand rested on Sansa's chin, thumb brushing lightly along her jaw as if petting a frightened animal. "You are a good girl," Cersei murmured. "You must remember that. Good girls survive." Sansa's throat felt tight. "I want to see my father," she whispered. Cersei's nails pressed slightly into her skin. "Of course you do," she said, voice full of understanding that did not reach her eyes. "And you may if he behaves." Sansa swallowed. "He hasn't done anything wrong." Cersei's lips curved. "Oh, sweetling," she said softly. "Men do wrong every day. Your father's mistake was believing he could do right in King's Landing and remain alive." Her hand tilted Sansa's face gently toward her. "This is not Winterfell." Sansa's eyes stung. She forced herself not to cry. Crying felt like giving them something. Across the room, Joffrey Baratheon stood by a table where a direwolf pelt had been draped, gray fur dull in the lamplight. Sansa's breath caught when she recognized it. Lady's fur, perhaps, or some other northern wolf. The sight made her chest hurt. Joffrey ran his fingers along a dagger's edge, not cutting himself, only savoring the danger. His gaze slid to Sansa, gleaming. "I'm going to have him confess," he said, as if discussing what he would eat for supper. Sansa's voice shook. "Confess to what?" Joffrey smiled. "To treason," he said, "to plotting to steal my throne." He spoke it with a strange excitement, like a child repeating a word he liked because it sounded important. "Then I will show mercy." Cersei's eyes flicked to him. "Joffrey," she said quietly, warning in the softness. Joffrey ignored it, stepping closer to Sansa. "Mercy," he repeated, leaning in. "Do you know what mercy is, Sansa?" Sansa forced herself to nod, though she did not trust her voice. Joffrey's smile sharpened. "It's when I decide whether you live," he said. Sansa's hands clenched in her lap until her nails bit into her palms. She looked away, toward the window, toward the faint line of the city beyond. She wanted snow. She wanted the smell of pine and hearth smoke. She wanted her mother's arms and her father's steady voice. Instead, she had silk and roses and a boy king's threat. Sandor Clegane stood near the wall, half-shadowed. His scarred face was expressionless, but his eyes watched Joffrey with something like contempt. When Sansa's gaze flicked toward him, he did not look away. He looked at her as if seeing her for what she was, someone who had believed songs and found knives instead. Cersei's hand released Sansa's chin and smoothed her hair as if making her presentable. "You will write your brother," Cersei said. "You will tell him to come and swear fealty. You will tell him your father admits his guilt and begs forgiveness. You will do it convincingly." Sansa's breath hitched. "I can't," she whispered. "Robb won't. He won't." "He will," Cersei said, calm. "Or he will learn that your father's head looks very much like any other man's head when it is separated from the body." Sansa's vision blurred. She blinked quickly, refusing tears. "Please," she whispered, the word hating itself as it left her mouth. Cersei's gaze hardened. "Please is for children asking for sweets," she said. "You are not a child anymore, Lady Sansa. Not in this city." She leaned closer, voice low. "You will do as I say and you will live. You will not force my hand. You will not make me demonstrate what happens to girls who disappoint queens." Joffrey laughed softly, enjoying it. "She'll do it," he said. "She wants to be my queen." Sansa flinched. The words felt like filth. Cersei rose gracefully, her skirts whispering. She looked down at Sansa with something like faint pity. "You are lucky," she said. "You have value. Hold on to that. Value keeps you breathing." As Cersei moved toward the door, Joffrey stepped in front of Sansa again, blocking her view. He lifted the dagger, not threatening, merely displaying. "When he kneels," he said, voice bright, "you should watch. It will be entertaining." Sansa's mouth went dry. She stared at him, at the green eyes that looked too much like the queen's, at the golden curls, and suddenly she understood with a clarity that made her dizzy. Jon Arryn had been right. Her father had been right. This boy was a lie, and lies killed. When Joffrey finally turned away, Sansa's gaze drifted again to Sandor Clegane. His eyes were on her still, heavy with something she could not name. "Don't cry," Sandor said suddenly, voice rough, barely more than a mutter. Sansa startled. "I'm not," she lied. Sandor's mouth twisted. "You will," he said, "but don't do it in front of them." He nodded subtly toward the door where the queen had gone. "They like it." Sansa's chest tightened. She looked down, breathing hard, and forced herself to swallow the sob that wanted to break free. Somewhere below, her father sat in darkness. Somewhere far north, Robb sat beneath stone and snow. And here, in a room that smelled of roses, Sansa Stark learned what it meant to be a hostage to power. To breathe only because someone decided you still served a purpose. The day they came for her, Arya Stark smelled it before she saw it. It was in the way the servants moved. Too fast, too quiet, eyes darting away. It was in the sudden absence of familiar faces. It was in the footsteps outside her room that did not belong to her father's men. Arya had never been good at sitting still. That morning, restlessness crawled beneath her skin like fleas. She slipped out into the corridor, intending to find her father, intending to demand answers, always intending. She found instead a pair of guards in red cloaks at the far end, their helmets catching torchlight. They stood where they did not belong, and when one of them turned his head, Arya saw the lion on his breast. Her heart lurched. She did not hesitate. She bolted. "Girl!" A voice shouted behind her. Boots thundered. Arya ran as she had run through Winterfell's yards, as she had run through Godswood shadows, as she had run from Septa Mordane's scolding. But King's Landing's corridors were a maze, twisting, lined with doors that could open to swallow you. She turned a corner and nearly slammed into a maid carrying linen. The maid shrieked, dropping cloth. Arya dodged and kept running, breath tearing in her lungs. She reached the practice yard, half expecting safety because Syrio Farrell was there. Syrio was always there. Syrio was water, and water did not fear stone. Syrio stood with his wooden sword in hand, his long dark hair tied back. When he saw Arya's face, his expression shifted from amused to sharp in an instant. "Run!" Arya gasped. "They!" Syrio's eyes flicked past her. Lannister men poured into the yard, steel flashing. A gold cloak was with them, face tight, as if he hated what he was doing but did it anyway. Syrio stepped forward, placing himself between Arya and the men. "Boy," he said to the nearest guard, voice light. "You are late. Your feet are slow. Perhaps you should go back and learn to walk." The guard's blade slid free. "Seize the girl," he barked. Syrio moved before they could. His wooden sword snapped out, cracking against a man's wrist. Steel clattered. Syrio spun, light as a dancer, the wood striking throats, knees, fingers. Men grunted in pain and surprise, stumbling back. Arya stared for half a heartbeat, stunned. Syrio fought with nothing but a stick, and yet he moved as if the air itself protected him. "Go!" Syrio snapped, and his voice cut through her shock. Arya's legs obeyed before her mind caught up. She ran, tears stinging, fury burning. She did not want to leave him. She did not want to leave anyone. But Syrio's voice had always been law in her lessons. Swift as a deer, quiet as a shadow. She sprinted through the red keep like a hunted thing. Behind her, she heard the clash of wood and steel. Syrio's shouted insults, men cursing. Then a sound different, a heavy, final thud. Silence after. Arya's stomach twisted. She ran harder. She burst out into a corridor and almost collided with a gold cloak. His eyes widened, then narrowed as recognition sparked. He reached for her. Arya ducked, slipping under his arm like a cat, and darted past. His hand caught a fistful of her hair, yanking. Pain shot through her scalp. Arya snarled and drove her elbow back into his ribs as hard as she could. He grunted, grip loosening. She tore free, leaving strands of hair behind. She ran until the red keep's air changed, until stone corridors gave way to servant passages that smelled of smoke and grease. She ducked through a half-open door and into the kitchen chaos. Cooks shouted. Pots clanged. No one looked twice at a skinny girl in plain clothes if she moved fast enough. Arya darted between tables, grabbed a chunk of bread from a tray without thinking, and shoved it into her mouth as she ran. The bread was still warm, tasted like home, and made her want to cry harder. She found an exit, an old postern door used for hauling refuse, and slipped out into the city. King's Landing hit her like a slap. Noise, heat, bodies pressed close. Smells, fish, sweat, shit, perfume, smoke. Arya's breath came fast. She pushed into the crowd, trying to be small, trying to disappear. But she knew this city, not its streets, but its feeling. It did not forgive the lost. She kept moving, down alleys, through markets, past men shouting about the king's death, past women whispering about treason. She heard her father's name spoken with curiosity, with scorn, with fear. Each time, it felt like someone stabbing her. At a corner, she risked a glance back. A pair of gold cloaks stood at the end of the alley, scanning faces. One pointed. Arya's heart slammed against her ribs. She ran again. Her feet slipped on filth. Her breath tore. She ducked under a hanging line of laundry, pushing wet cloth aside. She squeezed between barrels, knocked over a crate of rotting apples. The smell burst, sweet and sick. "Stop!" someone shouted. Arya's legs burned. She rounded a corner and slammed into a man, solid as a wall. She stumbled back, ready to bite and claw. The man grabbed her shoulders, not rough but firm. He wore black, his hair dark, his face lined. His eyes were tired but steady. "Arya Stark," he said softly. Arya froze, panting. "Who?" The man's gaze flicked past her, then back. "Quiet," he said. "You're coming with me." Arya's mind screamed no. She did not trust. She did not obey strangers. But something in his voice, something worn and honest, caught her. "Yoren," he said, as if that meant anything. Then he added, "Night's Watch." Arya's breath hitched. The Watch, the black cloaks, men sworn to the wall. Her father had spoken of them as duty, as honor. Gold cloaks appeared at the alley mouth. Yoren's hand tightened on Arya's shoulder. "Girl," he hissed. "If you want to live, you do what I say." Arya stared at the gold cloaks, at the way their eyes hunted. She nodded once, sharp. Yoren shoved her toward a doorway, and Arya slipped inside, into darkness that smelled of oldwa, odie and damp. She heard gold cloaks pass by, cursing. Yoren leaned close, his breath hot in her ear. "Stay quiet," he whispered, "and don't go thinking your Lord Father can save you now." Arya's throat tightened, fury and fear mixing into something that felt like poison. "My father will," she whispered back, though she didn't know if it was true. Yoren looked at her for a long moment. Then his gaze softened, just slightly. He said, "maybe he will, but we'll not wait to find out." Outside, King's Landing roared on, indifferent. Inside the darkness, Arya Stark held her breath and listened, and somewhere deep in her, a part of her that had once believed in songs died quietly, leaving behind only steel. Winterfell learned the truth the way it always learned it, through cold and silence and then sudden violence. At first, there was only absence. Ravens sent south did not return. Messages carried to White Harbor came back with too many cautions, too many hints. Merchants traveling from the neck spoke of unrest, of King Robert Baratheon dead, of the city's streets buzzing with fear. Then a rider arrived at Winterfell's gates with his horse lathered and his face streaked with grime and blood that was not all his own. They brought him into the great hall, where the fire roared and the banners hung heavy. Robb Stark sat in his father's seat, trying not to look as young as he felt. Catelyn stood beside him, her spine straight, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Maester Luwin hovered near, chain glinting, eyes anxious. The hall smelled of smoke and sweat and snow melting from cloaks. Northern lords filled the benches. Great Jon Umber towering like a bear, Roose Bolton pale and still as ice, Rickard Karstark with anger burning behind his eyes, Theon Greyjoy leaning against a pillar with a smile that didn't reach him. Grey wind prowled near Robb's feet, hackles lifting, growl rumbling low as thunder when strangers moved too quickly. The rider knelt in the center aisle, swaying. He held out a crumpled message, wax seal smeared, the parchment damp with blood. "My lord," he rasped, voice raw. "From the south. From men who still remember what honor is." Robb's heart hammered. He looked at his mother and saw the fear she would not allow herself to show. "Give it here," Robb said. The rider crawled forward enough to place it in Robb's hands, then sagged, breathing hard. Robb broke the seal with trembling fingers. The ink inside was hurried, blotched in places. Not a maester's neat hand, but a soldier's, someone writing as if chased by death. "Lord Stark is taken. King Robert is dead. Joffrey is crowned. Lord Eddard Stark is named traitor.
Stark men slain.
Lady Sansa Stark held. Lady Arya Stark missing." Robb's vision narrowed. The words blurred. For a moment he could not breathe. Catelyn's hand closed on his arm. "Robb," she whispered. Robb swallowed hard, forcing the air back into his lungs. He read again, slower, as if the second reading might change the words. It did not. He looked up at the hall, at the waiting faces, at the simmering fury. Great Jon Umber slammed his fist on the table, making cups jump. "They've taken your father," he roared. "We march. Now." Roose Bolton's voice was calm, almost bored. "March where? Into the lion's den? With what plan?" Rickard Karstark's face was red with rage. "Plan? The plan is steel," he spat. "We take their heads." Theon Greyjoy's smile sharpened. "And while you all march south," he drawled, The Ironborn will look north and see empty shores. Don't forget who else watches when wolves leave the forest. Gray winds growl deepened. Robb felt it in his bones. The wolf's anger met. Ching his own. Catelyn stepped forward, voice cutting through the rising shouts. Enough, she said. The hall quieted, not because the men were calm, but because Catelyn Stark's authority carried the weight of Winterfell's stone. Robb stood, the parchment clenched in his fist. His voice came out steadier than he felt. My father is alive, he said, because he needed it to be true. If he were dead, they would have paraded his head already. A murmur rippled. It was grim, but it was hope. Maester Luwin cleared his throat. And the satchel to White Harbor, he said. Lord Wyman Manderley received it. He sent word by rider 2 days ago. He glanced at Catelyn, then at Robb. The proof has reached its first harbor. Roose Bolton's pale eyes sharpened. Proof, he echoed. Catelyn's gaze swept the hall. Jon Arryn's proof, she said, and the words fell heavy. Some lords blinked, confused. Others stiffened, already guessing. The truth of Joffrey's parentage. Great Jon Umber's mouth twisted. Say it plain, he demanded. Robb took a breath. His father had taught him that a lord's words should not tremble. Joffrey is not Robert's son, Robb said. He is Jaime Lannister's. For a heartbeat, the hall went still. Then voices rose, shocked, angry, hungry. Bastard! Lannister whore! They've stolen the throne. Roose Bolton's voice cut through like a knife sliding under ribs. If we march, he said, we must know what banner we march under. Are we rebels? Or are we loyalists marching to uphold Stannis Baratheon's claim? Robb's chest tightened. That was the line between honor and ambition, between justice and a war that would swallow everything. Catelyn's eyes met Robb's, steady. She had sent the satchel to Dragonstone. She had made the choice already. We march for the rightful king, she said softly. We march to uphold law, and we march to bring Eddard Stark home. Great Jon Umber barked a laugh, fierce and approving. That's a banner I'll bleed for, he roared. Ricard Karstark slammed his cup down. And the lion cub? He demanded. Do we crown him anyway? Do we let him keep your sister as hostage? Robb's mind flashed to Sansa's smile, to her gentle hands feeding crumbs to ravens in Winterfell's yard. The thought of her trapped in the Red Keep made something savage rise in him. We bring her home, Robb said, voice low. We bring them both home. Maester Luwin stepped forward, cautious. We must be careful, he said. The Queen has the City Watch. She has allies, and the King's brothers, Renly Baratheon, may not accept Stannis. Let them fight over crowns, Great Jon Umber growled. We fight for a Stark. Roose Bolton's gaze lingered on Robb. If you march, he said softly, you place yourself in the game. Robb held his stare. The game came to Winterfell when they took my father, he said. I didn't ask for it, but I won't hide from it. Grey wind pressed close, his shoulder against Robb's leg, a silent vow. Robb lifted his voice. So the hall could hear. Send ravens to every banner house, he commanded. Call the north. We muster at Moat Cailin. We march south, his jaw clenched, and we do it with discipline. No raving, no pointless slaughter. We are not brigands. We are the north. The lords rose, voices rumbling like distant thunder. Catelyn stepped closer to Robb, lowering her voice so only he heard. You must send word to your brother, she murmured. Robb's throat tightened. To Bran. Catelyn's gaze flicked toward the door, toward the younger children hidden away from war's talk. To Stannis, she said. If he moves quickly, he may break the Queen's hold before she tightens it. Robb nodded once, hard. And Arya, he whispered. Where is Arya? Catelyn's face pinched, grief slipping through her armor. Missing, she said. But your father would not leave her unprotected. Someone will find her. Robb wanted to believe that. He wanted to believe his father could reach through stone and steel and pull Arya free. He looked at the crumpled message again, seeing the blood smeared on the seal. In the heart of Winterfell, beneath banners and fire, Robb Stark felt the world tilt. The North was awake now, and when the North woke, it did not do so gently. Dragonstone was carved by fire and salt, and it remembered both. The wind off the sea was sharp enough to cut, carrying spray that crusted on stone like the memory of storms. In the chamber of the painted table, candles burned despite the draft, their flames bending as if bowing to unseen forces. Stannis Baratheon stood over the table, hands braced on its edges. The painted table showed Westeros in carved, painted detail, rivers, mountains, castles marked by tiny shapes. A map of a realm that would not stay whole much longer. Before him lay the satchel's contents. Copied pages, lineages, names, the marked passage that Jon Arryn had died to find. Stannis' face was rigid, but his eyes burned with a contained fury that made the air around him feel tighter. Davos Seaworth stood to one side, hat in hand, awkward in the presence of such cold certainty. He watched Stannis with the wary loyalty of a man who had survived by reading storms. "So it's true," Davos said quietly, voice rough. "The boy, he isn't King Robert's." Stannis did not look up. "It was always true," he said. "I simply lacked proof the realm would accept." His fingers curled on the table's edge. Jon Arryn had the proof, and they killed him for it. Davos swallowed. "Lord Eddard Stark sent it?" "It reached Winterfell," Stannis said, eyes flicking to the Stark seal impressed in wax on one packet. "From Winterfell it reached White Harbor. From White Harbor it reached me. Stark knew ravens could be trapped." His mouth tightened. "Stark is not a fool. Not in this." Davos hesitated. "And yet he's in chains." Stannis' jaw clenched hard enough that Davos heard his teeth grind. "Because he trusted law in a city that sells law by the cup," Stannis snapped. Then his voice lowered again, colder. "But his captivity does not erase the truth." A soft sound came from the shadows, silk brushing stone. Melisandre of Ashai stepped closer, red robes dark as blood in candlelight. Her eyes gleamed, reflecting flame. She looked at Stannis not as a man but as a shape in destiny. "The usurper's line is cursed," Melisandre murmured. "The false king sits on a throne of blades. Blood will answer blood." Stannis' gaze cut to her. "Spare me your riddles," he said. Melisandre's lips curved, faintly amused. "Truth is not always a riddle, my king," she said. "Sometimes it is simply seen." Stannis ignored the title, though it hung in the air like a dare. He gathered the pages with controlled movements and looked at Davos. "We send letters," he said, "to every lord, to every maester, to every September. We send the proof with it." His eyes narrowed. "And we name the crime." Davos's throat bobbed. "The Lannisters will answer with steel." "Let them," Stannis said. "Steel is honest. Better than whispers." Davos shifted his weight, uneasy. "And Renly?" Stannis' mouth twisted. "Renly," he said, and the name tasted like betrayal. "He will do what he always does, smile and gather friends." His eyes darkened. "Ash. He will claim the throne because he wants it, not because he is owed it. He will dress treason in charm." Davos looked down at the painted table, at the carved reach at Storm's End. "And the North," he said. "Robb Stark has called his banners." Stannis' gaze sharpened. "Good," he said. "The North is slow to anger and terrible when roused. If Stark marches for law, he will be a hammer." He paused, then added, voice quiet and fierce, "And if Stark marches for his father, he will be something worse." Melisandre's eyes gleamed brighter. "War is coming," she whispered as if pleased. Stannis snapped his gaze back to the proof, to the words inked by dead men's hands. "War is already here," he said. "The realm has simply been pretending otherwise." He straightened, shoulders squared. He looked at the painted table as if it were an enemy he meant to conquer. "We sail," he said. Davos's eyes widened. Now, Stannis said. Before the queen fortifies. Before the boy's lies harden into belief. Before the realm grows used to treason. He looked at Davos with a hard intensity. If I hesitate, I become complicit. Davos nodded slowly, loyalty and dread mixing. Aye, he said. Then we sail. Stannis reached for a quill and began to write letters with strokes sharp as a drawn sword. As he wrote, Melisandre watched, her eyes reflecting fire. In the candlelight, her shadow stretched long across the painted table, falling over King's Landing like a stain. The first fires in the Riverlands were small enough to dismiss. A barn torched on a lonely road. A merchant's wagon found gutted near a stream. A farmer discovered hanging from his own gate, tongue swollen, eyes staring at nothing. Men muttered about bandits, about hungry deserters. They did not say Lannister, not at first. Then the screams grew louder. Word reached Riverrun like a sickness carried on breath. Men in lion colors were riding through villages, taking what they wanted, killing those who resisted, leaving smoke as their answer to questions. Brynden Tully, Blackfish, stood on Riverrun's walls watching the horizon darken with smoke, his face grim. That's no bandit work, he said. That's Tywin's. Edmure Tully paced in the war room like a man trying to outrun his own fear. Father can't rise, he said, voice tight. The banners are scattered. And now the Lannisters do this. Catelyn Stark had arrived at Riverrun with a small escort, her cloak dusted with road and winter. She had come because Winterfell needed allies, because the North could not march alone, because her father's house stood in the path of war. She stood over maps spread on the table, her finger tracing the red fork, the roads leading toward King's Landing. Tywin is moving, she said. He is punishing the Riverlands for holding faith with my father. Edmure's mouth twisted. We haven't even chosen a side yet. You have, Catelyn said, and her voice was sharp enough to cut. The moment they burned your villages, they chose for you. Blackfish's eyes glinted. Stannis Baratheon will send letters, he said. Proof, they say, that the boy on the throne is a bastard. Edmure flinched at the word. If Stannis is king, he'll be a hard king. A hard king is better than a false one, Catelyn said. She thought of Joffrey's green eyes, the queen's smile. She thought of Ned in chains. And my husband was hand of the king. He held Robert's will. For that, they took him. Edmure's hands clenched. We should send riders to the lords, he said. Call the river lords. If Tywin thinks to terrorize us into submission, we show him that rivers run with steel as well as water. Blackfish nodded once. Aye, but we must choose where to meet him. The Riverlands are wide. Our men will be outnumbered if we scatter. Catelyn stared at the map, mind racing. Robb will march south, she said. He must. If the North is to be a hammer, it needs an anvil. She lifted her gaze. Riverrun is that anvil. Edmure's face tightened, the weight of responsibility pressing down. Then we hold, he said. We hold until the North arrives. Outside, a distant rumble carried. Hoofbeats, perhaps, or thunder. The Riverlands did not know which. It did not matter. Both meant storm. A messenger burst into the room, face pale. Lady Stark, he panted. Lord Edmure. Riders from the east. They say Sir Gregor Clegane is at the crossroads, burning everything. Blackfish's jaw clenched. The M.O. Untain, he muttered. Catelyn's hands curled into fists. She had heard stories of the man's size, his brutality, the way he killed like breathing. Now he was in her homeland, dragging it into war with torch and sword. Edmure looked as if he might vomit. Then anger surged, reddening his face. I'll ride, he said. Blackfish's hand shot out, gripping his nephew's arm. You'll do what a lord does, he snapped. You'll think. You'll command. You'll not gallop into the mountain's teeth because you're angry. Edmure tore his gaze away from the door, struggling. They're burning my people, he whispered. Catelyn's voice softened, but did not lose strength. And they will burn more, she said. Unless we make them pay for every flame. She stepped closer to the table and pointed. We send riders to the river lords, she said. We fortify the fords. We gather men at Riverrun and at the Twins if we can secure passage. She met Edmure's gaze. And we send a raven to Winterfell. Robb must know Tywin is already waging war. Edmure swallowed and nodded, fury smoldering. Aye, he said. We'll hold. Outside, smoke thickened in the dusk sky. The scent of burning carried on the wind, faint but undeniable. Far from King's Landing's perfumed halls, war announced itself in the honest language of fire, and Catelyn Stark stood in the center of it, feeling the realm pull tight like a rope before it snapped. Moat Cailin rose from the bog like the bones of an old giant, broken but still defiant. The towers were ruins, jagged against the gray sky, yet the causeway beneath them remained the only true path between north and south. Men said a handful could hold it against armies, and as Robb Stark rode beneath its shattered stones, he believed it. The north moved behind him like a slow avalanche, inevitable, heavy, alive with steel. Thousands of men marched, cloaks dark, breath steaming. Banners snapped in the wind. The dire wolf of Stark, the flayed man of Bolton, the sunburst of Karstark, the giants of Umber. Horses snorted, hoofs sinking into mud, pulling free with sucking sounds. Wagons creaked under supplies. Men sang under their breath, not merry songs but old, grim ones meant to keep fear at bay. Robb rode at the front, his father's sword at his side. Not ice, which remained in King's Landing, but the weight of duty all the same. Gray wind ran alongside him, moving like shadow made flesh, eyes bright, tongue lolling, ears pricked. When men grew too loud or too careless, Gray wind's growl silenced them faster than any command. Great Jon Umber rode close, towering, laughing harshly. "Southron mud," he bellowed, spitting. "Soft as their bellies. We'll march right through and not even notice." Roose Bolton followed a little behind, his pale face unreadable, eyes half-lidded as if he found marching an inconvenience. The man did not waste emotion. He saved it like coin. Theon Greyjoy lingered near Robb's flank, watching the columns with a smirk that came and went. "So this is what it looks like," he said, voice light. "A boy playing king with an army at his back." Robb's gaze flicked to him. "I'm not playing," he said. Theon's smile sharpened. "No," he said. "You're marching to die, same as any of them." Robb's jaw tightened. He looked ahead, toward the south, toward the unseen city that held his father and his sister. "We march to bring my father home," he said, "and to put a rightful king on the throne." Theon shrugged. "Rightful," he echoed, amused. "That's a word men like when it suits them." Great Jon Umber barked a laugh. "Careful, Kraken," he rumbled. "In the north, we skin men for less than that sort of talk." Theon's eyes gleamed, but he held his tongue. For once. Robb's mind churned as the march continued. He thought of letters, of Stannis Baratheon's letters that would soon flood the realm with proof. He thought of Renly Baratheon, charming and ambitious. He thought of Tywin Lannister, already burning the Riverlands as if the land itself were a message. He thought most of all of his father, alone in stone and darkness. At night, they camped on patches of higher ground, torches burning against the bog's damp. Men huddled around fires, sharpening blades, whispering about what would happen when they reached the Trident. Some spoke of glory, most spoke of vengeance. Robb walked through the camp, cloak pulled tight, listening. He heard his name in murmurs. He heard his father's name too, spoken with reverence and rage. He stopped by a fire where Rickard Karstark sat, eyes hard. "My sons will bleed for you," Karstark said without preamble. "But if they kill your father, I'll make the Lannisters choke on their own gold." Robb's throat tightened. "They won't," he said, though he did not know. Karstark's mouth twisted. "They might," he said. "And if they do, the North will not be satisfied with justice. The North will want ruin." Robb felt the weight of that like a chain. Later, he sat alone for a moment. Grey Wind's warm body pressed against his leg. He looked up at the stars and tried to remember the last time he had been simply a boy. Felt like a lifetime ago. A rider approached, breathless, carrying a small packet sealed with tully wax. Robb's chest tightened as he broke it open. Reading by torchlight. Tywin burns the Riverlands. Riverrun prepares to hold. Mother holds strong. Robb folded the message carefully. He looked south again, feeling the war pulling him forward like a tide. Grey Wind nudged his hand, as if sensing his worry. Robb scratched behind the wolf's ear, drawing comfort from the solid warmth. "We're coming," Robb whispered, not sure if he meant Riverrun, his father, or the realm itself. Behind him, the northern host slept fitfully, a beast coiled in mud and snow, ready to strike. And beyond the neck, beyond the bog and ruin, the south waited with fire in its hands. The Great September of Baelor was built for men to feel small. Its marble steps climbed toward the sky like a path meant for gods, not mortals. Its domes gleamed in sunlight. Its doors were carved with scenes of holiness that felt like mockery when the crowd outside pressed forward, hungry for spectacle. Small folk filled the square, packed tight. They shouted and jeered and prayed, the sounds blending into a roar that rose into the air like smoke. Some clutched seven-pointed stars. Some held rotten fruit. Some came only because this was the closest they would ever get to power, and power, even displayed in punishment, was intoxicating. Sansa Stark stood near the front, held by guards. Her face was wet with tears she could not stop now. Her hands shook so badly she could barely keep them clasped. She tried to breathe, but her lungs felt too small. When she saw him, something in her broke anew. Eddard Stark walked out onto the steps in chains. He looked older than he had days ago. His beard was untrimmed. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed. There was bruising along his jaw, and the skin at his wrists was raw where the irons had rubbed. Yet when he lifted his head and looked out over the crowd, there was still that steadiness, stone beneath storm. Sansa wanted to run to him. She wanted to scream that she was sorry, that she had written the letter they made her write, that she had lied with ink on her hands because she was afraid. But guards held her, and fear held her tighter. Above, on a platform set near the Sept doors, Cersei Lannister sat with regal stillness. Her face was composed, as if attending a boring sermon. Beside her sat Joffrey Baratheon, crowned, leaning forward with eager eyes. He looked like a boy watching a bear baiting. Varys stood behind them, hands folded, eyes sad. Peter Baelish lounged nearby, smile faint. Sandor Clegane stood like a shadow, his gaze fixed on the crowd rather than the prisoner. Ser Island Payne waited, great sword in hand, expression empty. The High Septon began to speak, voice booming with practiced sanctity. He spoke of treason and sin, of the need for confession, for repentance. His words washed over Sansa like cold water. She could hear only her own heartbeat, loud and frantic. Eddard Stark knelt on the steps. The chain clinked against stone. Sansa's breath hitched. She stared, willing him not to kneel because kneeling meant surrender and surrender meant. Cersei's voice drifted down, soft and intimate in Sansa's memory. Good girls survive. Ned's gaze swept the crowd. For a heartbeat, his eyes found Sansa. He did not smile. He did not soften. But something passed between them. A silent message, heavy as a vow. Live. Sansa's mouth opened on a sob. Ned looked away then, lifting his face toward the platform where Joffrey sat. The boy king's mouth curved in anticipation. Varys's words echoed in Ned's mind like a drumbeat. If you live and confess, you buy time. Time for Sansa. Time if the gods were. Kind for Arya wherever she was. Ned's hands clenched, then relaxed. He had always believed honor was a straight path. Now he saw that honor could bend without breaking, if bending saved those who could not withstand the storm. He forced his voice out, rough but clear. "I am Eddard Stark," he said. The crowd quieted slightly, hungry. "I served as Hand of the King. I betrayed that trust." Sansa's breath stopped. The words struck her like a physical blow. She stared, disbelieving. Her father did not lie. Her father, but he was lying now. Ned continued, each word tasting like ash. I plotted to seize the Iron Throne, he said. I wrote to claim that Joffrey Baratheon was not King Robert Baratheon's true heir. He swallowed, throat tight. I was wrong. Joffrey Baratheon is the rightful king. The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering, some chanting. Traitor! Voices shouted. Mercy! Others cried. They did not know what they wanted except blood, and blood was offered. Sansa felt the world tilt. Tears streamed down her face. Yet beneath the horror, something else flickered. Understanding, painful and sudden. Her father was doing this for her life. Cersei's face remained composed. Only her eyes tightened slightly, satisfied. This was what she wanted. The wolf muzzled in front of the realm. Joffrey rose, grinning broadly. He looked delighted, like a child given a new toy. Ned bowed his head, the confession complete. He waited for the promised mercy, though he did not trust promises made by lions. He heard movement beside him, guards shifting, the scrape of armor. He heard the crowds roll and break like waves. Then Joffrey's voice rang out, bright and cruel. My mother bids me show mercy, he said, and Sansa's heart lurched with hope so sharp it hurt. But I am the king. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. And I say, I want his head. For a heartbeat, the square went utterly still, as if the city itself had drawn breath. Cersei's head snapped toward him. Joffrey, she said sharply, the first crack in her composure. Varys went pale. Even Baelish's smile faltered. Sansa screamed, the sound tearing out of her, raw and animal. No! Ned lifted his head, eyes widening. For the first time on those steps, fear flashed across his face. Not for himself, but for Sansa, for what this would do to her, to Robb, to the north. He looked up at Joffrey, at the boy's grin, and understood with bleak clarity. Mercy was not a concept Joffrey understood. Mercy was something he could break to prove he could. Ser Island Payne stepped forward. The great sword shifted in his hands, catching sunlight, and Sansa's scream became a ringing in her ears, endless and distant. The sword came down like judgment. Eddard Stark did not beg. He did not curse. He did not plead for mercy from a boy who had never known what mercy was. He knelt on the cold marble steps and thought of snow. He thought of Winterfell's Godswood, where red leaves whispered against white bark. He thought of the smell of pine, of smoke from the hearth. He thought of Catelyn's hands on his face the night before he left, trying to memorize him. He thought of Robb standing in the Great Hall, trying to become a man with a child's heart. He thought of Arya's fierce eyes, of Bran's laughter, of Rickon's small hands clutching at fur. He thought of Sansa, trembling and bright, and felt grief stab through him sharper than steel. He lifted his head slightly, eyes searching the chaos below. He found her. His girl, his sweet girl, struggling against guards, her face twisted in horror. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her mouth formed his name, but the sound was swallowed by the roar of the crowd. Live, he tried to tell her again, though his lips did not move. Live, remember who you are. Remember Winterfell. Do not let this city remake you into something you hate. Above, Joffrey Baratheon stood smiling, as if watching a puppet show. Cersei Lannister's composure finally cracked. She surged to her feet, voice sharp, furious. Stop! She shouted. But the word was too late, swallowed by the momentum of cruelty. Varys's hands clenched in his sleeves. Sandor Clegane's face tightened, eyes hardening as if he could see the monster he served more clearly than ever. Peter Baelish watched, expression shifting into something unreadable. Calculating, perhaps, or simply amused that tragedy followed pattern. Ser Island Payne did not hesitate. He was a tool, and tools did not ask why. The blade fell. For a heartbeat, Eddard Stark felt nothing. Then the world tipped, sky, stone, shouting faces, spinning away. There was a sensation of cold air where there should not have been cold air. There was a strange weightlessness, as if his body had become smoke. His last thought was not of kings or lies or war. It was of the north. Then darkness closed, clean and complete. The crowd erupted. Some screamed in horror. Others cheered, drunk on blood. The sound was a wave crashing over everything. Sansa's scream cut through it, raw, shredding. She fought the guards with desperate strength she did not know she had. Nails clawing, voice breaking. "Father!" she shrieked, the word turning into a sob, into a howl. Guards held her tighter, dragging her back as if she were a wild thing. She buckled, knees giving out, and would have fallen if a hand had not caught her. Sandor Clegane's gloved hand, rough, reluctant. He steadied her as if he did not know what else to do with a girl collapsing under grief. "Don't," he muttered, voice harsh. "Don't give them the show." Sansa could not hear him. The world was noise and blood and the sight of her father's body crumpling, head rolling down marble. Steps like a discarded thing. Above, Joffrey laughed, delighted. "Send it to his brother," he called, voice carrying. "Send the head to Winterfell." Cersei grabbed his arm, nails digging. "You idiot!" she hissed, fury burning through her. "You!" Joffrey yanked away, petulant, triumphant. "I am the king," he snapped. "I can do as I like." And that was the truth beneath every lie. The realm was ruled by a child who mistook cruelty for strength. As the square dissolved into chaos, a raven lifted into the sky from a high tower of the Red Keep, black wings beating against sunlight. It rose above domes and smoke, above the roar of the city, above the blood on marble. It climbed and climbed, heading north where snow waited, where stone remembered, where wolves listened. In Winterfell, Robb Stark would soon look up at a dark shape against gray sky and feel his world split. On Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon would read of the execution and set his jaw harder than stone. In Riverrun, Catelyn Stark would hear and go cold, grief turning into something fierce and unforgiving. And in King's Landing, Sansa Stark would be dragged back into silk and roses, her sobs swallowed by walls, while the head of House Stark became a message meant to break the North. But the North did not break easily. It bent like a tree under snow, creaking, groaning, gathering weight. And when it snapped with thunder. They could cage him here. They could break paper and seals and oaths. They could not cage the North. And somewhere, far away, a rider with a satchel sealed in Stark wax was already moving through snow, carrying fire toward a realm that thought itself safe.